Hey everyone, Aaron here from Canyon Adventure Vans, and today we're going to show you how we install our garage slide out deck in the Jayco Terrain and Integra launch. So let's get to it. All right, first I'm going to have a helper team lift this into the van. I'll try to lift it up and rest it on here and then climb in above it. If you have two helpers, it's even better, but definitely need at least one or else you're gonna hurt yourself. All right, move this door out of my way. Okay, so now I've got it in roughly where I want it. I'm gonna go ahead and line this threshold up here and also keep an eye on the sides, try to get the straightest placement that we can. So I'm gonna try and go back as far as I can and then try to get this threshold, like I said, up here straight by looking over the top. So we're gonna go ahead and measure this distance right here to make sure that we're actually dead even. As you can see, it's not a very straight threshold here to line it up. So really all we can do is try to get this straight so that it looks good on the eyes, and then try and get that straight so that that looks good on the eyes, and so it pulls out straight from the van. About 2. Yep. Cool, so we're perfectly even there. Now I'll just make sure that this threshold's good here. So now that we've got it roughly where we want it, keep in mind we are gonna have a little bit of play with the holes that are on here. So it doesn't have to be exact, but we do want it as close as possible. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna hold the outside of these rails, and I'm gonna have my helper, Manny today. He's gonna pull out the garage slide out deck just enough to where I can reach these back holes. And hopefully the garage slide out deck isn't gonna move at all, because I really need it to stay where it needs, where it is right now, so that I can make my first holes. So go ahead, Manny, and pull that out just a few inches. That's good right there. Okay, and then just go ahead and support it there. Just think we're good. Okay, cool. So right now it's not pulled out far enough to where it's gonna mess with anything. So I'm gonna go ahead to these back holes, and I'm just gonna trace the very outside of the hole. Rather than trying to go right in the center, I'm just gonna give myself the framework of what I'm gonna drill in between. So I'm just gonna go ahead and trace the whole circle here. And then he's gonna pull it out a little bit further until I have access to this next set of holes. I'm gonna go ahead and mark those as well. Cool. So now we're gonna push it all the way back in. We're gonna carry it out, and then we're gonna drill our holes so that we can put our bolts in for mounting. All right, so now I'm gonna mark the center of these holes just so I can get right dead center. So I like to just do a little cross, kind of eyeball it. And we're gonna take our punch and kind of find the center of that by eye. If you wanna get real crazy, you can measure the center, but eyeballs usually work pretty good. So we're just gonna punch this. That gives us something for our drill bit to grab so we don't start riding all over the place and going crazy. We'll do the same thing to all 4 holes here. All right, so now we're gonna load up a 1/4 inch drill bit into our drill. We're gonna drill into each one of these holes. So we'll start right here. Okay, looks like this van has some plywood we're gonna get through. All right, cool. So right now I can kind of feel that I dropped all the way through the plywood. And this is gonna be the hole that we're actually gonna drill out this 2-inch hole here so that we can get our wrenches in and all that for fastening. But what I'm gonna try and do is get all the way through the metal first, so I can feel I've hit something hard here, which is the metal of the bottom of the floor. So I'm gonna keep pushing until we go through. And that way I kind of know what center of this 2 inches is. That way once I've cut this out, I'm not trying to find center again. So we'll go ahead and do that to each one of these other holes. Now we've loaded in our 2-inch hole saw here. It's definitely important to have a drill bit down the center. That's gonna keep us centered up here. And I'm gonna really try to get this thing going before I dip in there. This stuff, it's plastic, but it's got a pretty good grip on it. So we're gonna try our best not to catch this and go flying. So here I go, easing into it nice and easy. Okay, feels like I've went through. Let's double check here. Okay, I should be able to grab a screwdriver or something like that, pop that out. Looks like I need to cut a little bit more here. So here's what you'll cut out. As you can see in this particular van, yours is probably the same, but you never know. We got a layer of plywood. We've got the layer of the actual flooring on top, and then some styrofoam down there, imagine for insulation. And if you look over the top with the camera there, you can see, actually, you have the vacuum. Oh, right there. So we'll clear this out for you real quick so you can see. But we've drilled our hole that's ultimately gonna be for the plus nut that we're gonna put in there that fastens the whole thing. It gives us a little room here. But as you can see, we're more or less centered in this hole here. So we've got our pilot drilled for us to put our plus nut in there. I'll show you that in a second, but we definitely have a lot of room to get our wrench in there and all that we need to. So we'll go ahead and just repeat this process all the way around on all 4 of these. So as you'll see, ours is probably looking a little different than yours. We've gone ahead and cleaned it up. It does make quite a big mess cutting out all of this, but what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna cut and dig out with your screwdriver, knife, whatever you wanna use, till you see the actual frame of the van down in there. You should see metal. And the thing about the floor of the van is it's got some waves in it. So as you can see, this one is right on a flat surface. That one's gonna work out great. This one, on the other hand, is a little bit more on an angle. So as we go to drill that out, we're gonna kind of naturally fall into the bottom here. It's gonna be at a little bit of an angle, but ultimately it's gonna be all right. Hey guys, Aaron here. So this actually was an issue, and what we ended up having to do was drill a new pilot hole for our step bit and plus nut over onto the flat part of that body. There is enough play on the garage slide out deck itself to where those holes don't have to be perfectly in the center of those 2-inch cutouts that we did. So definitely before you do the step bit, you're gonna wanna make sure all of your holes are going into the flattest part of the bottom frame of the van without any curves or hitting the frame. So definitely make sure you've got a nice solid hole that goes straight through the body without hitting the frame or coming in on the edge of the angled part of the body. So we'll go ahead with our drill bit, with our step bit on. We're gonna go ahead and drill it all the way to the biggest hole, all the way through. Here we go. No, it should be good. On this one it will be. All right, so we've drilled all the way through. We now have that hole there. And we'll do the same on all 4 holes. All right, so because we did just drill through the steel frame, we're gonna go ahead and paint the hole just to avoid any rusting. This one we can see the daylight, so to speak. We can see the actual ground we've drilled through. This other side we can't, so we're gonna do a sealant as we go on this side. I'll show you that in a sec. This one we're actually gonna go back through on the bottom and seal it because we can get to it. But yeah, so we will definitely paint this side. And you could do this with a spray can if you feel comfortable, if you want to, tape it up or anything, or spray your can into the cap and use your finger. Really, you just want a good layer of paint there, just so it seals up that raw metal. So to engage this plus nut into the band, we got to put it on this bolt here with this in between. And what we're going to do to engage this is we're basically putting our wrench on this part right here, either holding it yourself or having someone else hold it, and then you're going over the top with this and going clockwise, righty-tighty, and you're just threading that in. And what happens is this compresses, these flare out, and they grab that sheet metal and ultimately hold this plus nut into place. So we'll go ahead and do that now. You'll know when it's tight, when you basically can't tighten anymore. You've successfully expanded this plus nut to where these flare out and have caught that sheet metal on the bottom, and that's sandwiched in there. So now we can go ahead and go into lefty-loosey mode and get our bolts out of here. All right, now that we've got our holes drilled, our plus nuts inserted and engaged, we're ready to put this back in and tie it down. So we're gonna get our helper back, get this loaded in carefully. Okay, same process. I'm gonna have Manny pull it out just a slight bit. We're gonna make sure we can get to those plus nuts that we put in there. I'm gonna move it into place so I can see a straight shot down into there. So I'm gonna take my oval washer, I'm gonna put my bolt through it. We're gonna go ahead and feed this down into that plus nut and carefully thread that in without cross threading it. And I'm gonna go basically until I kind of lose, go right up until that washer cinches down, just so we have a little bit of play so that we can do our final adjustment. So now that these back two are in place, we're gonna go ahead and scoot this out a little further to gain access to our other holes. I'll go ahead and that way. Yep, perfect. Okay, and we're just repeating the process here on these other two front bolts, going in, finding that plus nut that we've put in there, and threading it in. So what I'm doing is I'm basically leaving all of these somewhat loose. That way now we're gonna close this. We're gonna make sure it closes. If anything's out of whack, as far as it being able to close, it's gonna have enough room and enough play to straighten itself out. And then we're gonna fine tune it. And then once we're happy with exactly where it's at, we're gonna tighten them all back down. All right, so go ahead and close it there, Manny. Cool. Make sure that one closes too. It's good. Now we're gonna do that same process we did in the very beginning. We're gonna make sure that this threshold's straight and that we're as even as we can be on all other areas of it. And we actually got it. And you're gonna wanna do what I just did there. Carefully take it out, put it back in, make sure you're going all the way, make sure you can go all the way out and that it locks into position there, and that all the way in here, it locks into position. I'm also checking out this line back here, which looks great, and trying to measure off of, you know, the points that we set for this van in particular. We wanna get these as close to even as possible. Okay. All right, now I'm gonna tighten them up. Just open it again, Manny. That's good right there. So I now have these nice and snug, and on this side, it ends up going into the frame rail. So what I've done is just caulked the inside with some roofing sealant. You can use really any type of silicone, and just get it in there. That way, no water or dust or anything can go up in between. It's pretty sealed off anyways with this, but that's the best we could do on this side. This side, like I said, you could see daylight, you could see straight through the floor. So we're gonna go up from the bottom now. I did put a little bit of caulking on this one, but we're gonna go up on the bottom as well and just caulk around that plus nut down there, just so we seal that off from dirt, dust, any water or anything like that. You can also see that this is nice and secure now. Can walk all the way out here, give it a light bounce. I don't weigh much, mind you, but it does appear that we are nice and secure in there. So I'll go ahead and take a light little step off here, and we'll go under the van, seal that up, and we'll be all good. You can see right here, there's two things I want to show you. One is, this is how the plus nut works. So as you can see, it actually looks like a plus sign, hence the name plus nut. I don't know if that's really why it's called that, but you can see it's flared out, and that's how this thing works. It grabs the bottom here, and it basically creates a nut there that you can use without having to put a nut on this side. On this side, realistically, could we go down here with a nut? I guess so, but the other side is in the frame. It would be completely impossible. So we're keeping it consistent on both sides. But what I'm gonna do is just basically try to get a good layer of sealant on this to just prevent any type of issues with water or anything else getting up in there. Just peace of mind to know that this guy down here is nice and closed off and sealed off from the elements. So I'm just gonna put a generous amount kind of around the outside, and then I'll use my fingers with latex gloves on to kind of even that out and get it all around the goods. There we go, got a pretty good amount there. And like I said, I'm just gonna take my finger here and go ahead and cover this up completely It's not so much the bolt that I'm looking to cover, but I will, since I have enough here. I'm really just trying to cover up that plus nut. Just make sure that there's absolutely no cracks. There we go, and that's nice and sealed off. Now we'll move on to the other one and repeat that same process. All right, folks, so there you have it. Install for the Jayco Terrain Integra launch garage slide out deck from Canyon Adventure Vans. Hope you enjoyed this, hope you found it useful. Not our easiest install, I'm gonna be completely honest with you, but not something you can't do yourself. If you're a little handy, have some of the tools around, and think that you can do this yourself. If you have any questions, feel free to email us, info@canyonadventurevans.com. Please give us a follow on Instagram @CanyonAdventureVans. Like, comment, and subscribe. All the details will be in the description. Thank you again for watching. Have a good one.